welcome to a very special Convo Fango. This is a bucket list one from you guys. I gotta admit that. We are joined by Cassandra Peterson. Yay! As I pass out on the side. Okay.
Thank
Get my
you.
fainting couch. All right. Thank you for coming to hang out with us today. This is very
Oh,
cool.
you're welcome. I'm so glad I could do this. I mean, I love Fangoria.
Yay. Actually, we have a history together. Not you and I personally. I
Oh,
mewe have a
oh,
history. You don't know about that. It's very
oh,
one-sided history. But
wow.
with Fangoria and Elvira definitely have a history
Oh,
together.
yeah.
You've been
I'm
on
sure going
covers,
back
you've been on
a long
posters.
time.
Yes.
And I think on the cover a couple times or a few
Mm-hmm.
times. Yep.
Multiple times. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely multiple times. I think you were on the cover with Freddie once. You were on a cover where you're dressed as like a mummy. My favorite one.
Not that
Oh,
one. Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah. My favorite one I actually just came across recently. I was going through the archives. It's issue number 22, I think, and it introduces Fangoria readers to Elvira, and that was like in October of 1982, and I was like losing my mind when I
Wow.
saw
Oh my
that.
God, that's an antique. Wow.
Yeah.
That should get some money, right?
Right? Exactly. I'll send you a copy of that one.
Okay.
So we're here today to talk about your new book, Yours Cruelly, your memoirs.
You can see right back
Yeah,
there.
ta-da! There you go. Very do the
Enough
prices
of
right
them
kind of
there?
showcase.
Yeah.
Amazing. I loved this so much, and even though I knew certain parts that were coming up, I still was ugly crying by the end, honestly. A
Thanks.
good
I hope
ugly
it
cry.
was crying in a good way, not like because you had to read the book.
It was the best kind of ugly cry for sure.
Okay.
Um, But there's so much in this book and a lot of unexpected things. I mean, obviously, we know that you're going to talk about your career as Elvira, but like, holy shit, even if without the Elvira element, I would have been fascinated by this book and just devouring it. There's elements of true crime, haunted houses. I feel like you live.
Everything.
Yeah.
I tell people there's sex, violence,
Yeah.
nudity, everything that makes a good book, right?
It's riveting. Everything that makes a riveting page turner, it's got
Yeah,
it.
thank you. And I told people for so many years that when I finally got to be Elvira at the age of 30, that's when my life became normal and slowed down. And people are like, really? When you, yeah, and it's true. And I think after you read that, you'll probably say, yeah, your life
Hmm.
before that was pretty insane.
Yeah. And I mean, Elvira stuff is insane as well, but I feel like there was more of like a stability and a calmness to it than your life prior to Elvira.
Yeah, it got a little boring when I had to get up for the Elvira stuff and start writing that. I was like, oh, everybody knows all this stuff. I'm like listing my resume, like, and I did this and I did that and I did this, you know.
But
But
there's
I know
still
the fans
lots.
will want to know that. So
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much for fans in there where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, or that's cool, or things I actually had questions about and then learned here. But there's so much covered here that I feel like that had to be daunting. Like, how did you even sit down and begin? Like, the book goes chronologically, but brains don't always work that way. So I'm wondering what that process was like of just like sitting and just starting.
well, first of all, I thought about sitting and starting for about 15 years
There you
prior to that.
go.
And I would write down little notes, and once in a while in a writing class, I would write an essay about my life and stick that in a file. And that went on for years and years and years. Fans kept saying, when are you going to write your autobiography? And I was like, whenever I get time. I don't know when I'm going to get time. And strangely, the pandemic kind of afforded me that time. I started quite a bit of it beforehand, but when the pandemic came along, I wasn't traveling like I normally do, running all over the world. I was sitting at home. So I was able to, concentrate on sitting down and actually do the writing 4 to 8 hours every day, 7 days a week for about a year. So, and prior to that, I had gotten a book deal with an agent had gotten me a book deal in New York City with a big publisher, Hachette. And then when you have a deadline, you sit your ass down and you do it because, you're going to get paid. So,
Right. I'm like that's an insane amount of discipline though, especially if you're not used to sitting your butt in a chair and writing for 8 hours. Like, was it full on, did it come easily to you, or were a lot of those 8 hours like staring up at the ceiling and like you needing to write?
A lot of it was staring up at the ceiling going,
Yeah.
oh my God, what do I write next? But a lot of it were stories that I'd told to friends all my life. And all my friends had been saying forever, you have got to write your life story because it is too weird. You just have to write it down. So yeah, a lot of it was just sitting there and thinking, but a lot of it was really fun. And I liked getting the chance to write it down and kind of work things out. Think about them really in a different light for the first time in my life, go, wow, that was weird.
Yeah, I don't know how weird you realize it is as you're living it because that's just your life, you know? But then I guess when you get a different perspective on it and you're telling people and people are like, "I'm sorry, what now?" Then maybe it's like, "Oh, I guess that's not necessarily the norm."
Yeah, it's so funny. Like the other day, I was noticing that one of a little bit of in my book is when I lived in a tree for a year on Hollywood Boulevard with my boyfriend. And, I go, no one has brought that up. And I thought that was pretty unusual, but maybe it's not. Maybe everybody lives in a tree and it's just normal because nobody seemed to bring it up. But I guess there's so many other weird things in the book that living in a tree just didn't seem that bizarre.
Living in a tree, when it gets to that part, I'm like, wow, that's very bizarre. But then you're right, there's so many other bizarre things that I'm like, I don't know if it ranks in like my top like three, like but it is very cool and very strange.
Yeah, it was strange, all right.
Something I thought was actually really interesting about this is you are very, very honest in this. So how did you decide exactly how honest you were going to be? I mean, you definitely name names, but it was refreshing to have that level of honesty because I'm like, I feel like we're actually getting the real story here as opposed to just like a watered down something that wouldn't be true to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, when I made the decision to write uh, my life story, I said, I'm going to put everything in it. I'm going to put everything. I may piss off some people, and I was a little worried about that. I haven't seen any subpoenas yet, or but
It's it's
but
pretty
yeah,
new. Give it some time.
yeah, but I wanted to tell what I actually went through, and I hadn't told fans or even friends a lot of the stuff that's in there. So I wanted to really just dump it all out there and why hold back? I mean, I just wanted to be truthful about who I am and what my life is. And I was at this point in my life, I'm not that worried about the consequences anymore. I
Yeah.
made a good living. I have enough money. I don't have to be desperate about working and anything. And I thought, I'll just tell the truth. And, if people don't like it, I don't know, what can I say?
No, I love that. And also I feel like that's for me personally, the coolest thing about getting older is like giving less of a shit about certain things. Not like in an apathetic way, but you give a shit about the important stuff and the other stuff just kind of falls away.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I just turned 70 years old and it's like, what do I have to hide? What do I do? If people don't like it, that's their problem,
Tough.
not mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just threw it all out there. And so far it's been fantastic. I've been telling people on one of my social media platforms, I lost 11,000 followers, which I
No
was like,
way.
wow. I sort of discovered it's mainly old straight guys.
Mm.
Um, crushed because I came out about my relationship with a woman. And so I guess they're figuring that we're never going to hook up now. They're all stressed. So they got, but
That's what did it.
I know, I gained 60,000 new followers on
Oh my God.
the same time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
So,
gonna say you lost 11,000. We can like at least more than double that, right? Like,
yeah. So, some people are going to have their feelings about whatever is, and you just can't please everybody.
yeah,
If you say this, you piss off that group. And if you say that, you piss off that group. So I just
right.
wanted to tell uh, what my life had been. I keep banging, making noises. I keep wanting to, just tell the truth, and it's what it is. I can't go back in history and change what happened to me. That's what happened.
And it's your story. You know what I mean? Like, take ownership of that. And like, there's like my mom sometimes will say to me, like, if you write about me, write nice things. And I'm like, be nice and I'll write nice things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of.
There you go. Yeah, one of the things that kept me from writing my autobiography was a long time was honestly my mom was still alive. And I thought, oh, if she reads this, it's gonna kill her.
Oh, no.
I did wait till she passed away, just
Yeah,
you know, because there were some things, we had quite a difficult relationship.
right.
And yeah, writing about that was really hard.
Yeah, was it like cathartic in a sense as well to be able to sit down and get that out?
Very, very much.
Yeah.
I'd say the most cathartic part of the book, of writing the book, is the process I went through about talking about my mom when I was a child, and then going on later, my relationship with her. And it, yeah, brought me to a place of kind of forgiving her, you know, for what happened. I mean, she went through her own crap. She was in foster care her whole life. Her mom died when she was 9. She was in foster care. I don't know what happened in foster care, but I'm thinking it probably wasn't all that pleasant. And
Yeah.
so she had her demons. She took a lot of them out on me, but I felt like by the end of the book, I was able to understand it and forgive her, and that, you know, everybody goes through things with their relationships, and you just can't hold that in and be angry the rest of your life.
Yeah. I think that just kind of just the bits of kind of like your life philosophy that kind of come across in this is something that really spoke to me. You did have a tumultuous relationship with your mother, but I feel like by the end you were able to kind of empathize and forgive in as much as somebody can and approach
Yeah,
that with like grace and love, which I think is really cool.
thank you.
Yeah. And then also the chapter, Do You Believe in Magic? That struck a chord with me as well because I just feel like I just related to so much of it and like all this like the kind of like the serendipitous of like this conversation that you had with Elvis and then you find this book later on and then you see that book at Graceland and it's kind of like the way that you approach life is with this philosophy and I just it's kind of the things that I employ and there was a point where I was feeling a bit directionless and I was like what do I want to do and then I was like you know what I want to be on staff at Fangoria is like my main thing is what I want to do and then here we are so it's like
You are.
yeah.
I know. The important thing about that philosophy of the philosophy of like attraction, you know, where you what you think is what you get, good or bad.
Hmm.
The importance of that in my book, I think, is really spelled out. Like Elvis said, there are no coincidences. There really aren't. If you read my book, I think people will see how many bizarre things have happened to me that I thought of, I obsessed about, and then they happen. And I mean, I'm talking like a 14-year-old girl living in Colorado Springs, and then suddenly I'm a showgirl in Las Vegas when I'm 17, and I'm sitting there with Elvis Presley, and he's giving me advice. You know, I mean, it was okay. I don't think that would normally happen, but I think I was really focused on that happening because of that movie Viva Las Vegas, which is so wacky. What a movie to pick, right? But anyway, you know, that, and I think in my book, people will see time and time again, I thought about these things and they just happen. So I hope that gives other people a little incentive to like think about what they're thinking, set goals for yourself. One of the things I love that was in Ernest Holmes' book was like he equated not having a goal or anything to a ship that goes out in the middle of a giant lake and sails around forever, but doesn't have a map or a compass. And they never get to where they want to go. They just go. And so you really have to make like a map for yourself, you know, write down specifics. I want this, I want that, this is how I see myself. I became very specific. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a comedic actor. Um, I wrote down what I wanted to find in a man, you know, his traits, everything. And I slept with that under my pillow and read it every night before bed, every morning when I woke up. And within a year, all of those things happen.
Yeah.
So you really just have to focus on what do you really want, not what might happen, what could have happened, what you sort of want. Just pick something and go for it, you know, and then do the steps to get you there.
Right.
Um,
I think that's the other thing too. People think like, oh, I'm like, no, it's not a magical wish list. Like in a
No,
sense
it's
it
not.
is, but you're setting your intention and then you're working towards those intentions and that's your map.
Exactly. It wasn't like I just laid in bed and wished
Right.
I'd become a famous comedian. I went out on interviews. I wrote down all my auditions that I had and how many I had, and called. I had a rule: call somebody every single day, 7 days a week, that might further your career.
Mm,
So I would call a casting agent. I would call anybody and just ask them, "Do you have any advice for me trying to, achieve this goal?" And I did that every single day, no matter what. And I think that some days it wasn't helpful at all, but I
hmm.
did it. I just made up my mind
Right.
what I was going to do. So that's
Either way,
my
you're
advice
taking
to
action.
everybody I do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take action. And that action, I don't know what the hell it does, but
It gets you. It does this. It gets you somewhere. It eventually gets you, if not exactly where you want to be, at least closer to it than you were, just
absolutely.
rudderlessly spinning around in a lake.
Yeah.
But I love that, and then it just reaffirming, I guess, reading that from you or hearing it from you on the audiobook. And I was just like, this is wild. Like we have like same life philosophy, and I feel like I'm like this is like another thing that's like aligning.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that from somebody.
Also, it was on my list to interview you, so I'm crossing that off the list too.
Very well. Okay, see how that works?
It's all lining up, baby.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that you're very honest in here. You've always been a gay icon, such a champion for just the gay community in general. You've always been one of us, but I didn't think that we knew you were like one of us,
I know. I feel that feels a little hypocritical to me always. I've been
Why?
around gay men my whole life. I
Hmm.
mean, they taught me really how to dress, how to act, how to do my makeup, how to do everything. So I already have always felt like I was part of the gay
Hmm.
community. In fact, I felt like I was a gay man. It's so bizarre.
Yes,
I
you
really,
are.
yeah, I think I am. Uh, and so, yeah, then when I had a surprising relationship with a woman, um, I, you know, I wanted to tell people about it. I really did because I want to make her feel more comfortable
Right.
and myself. But I was protecting the character of Elvira, who is not in a gay relationship. She's
Right.
straight, she's a big horn dog. And I had to really worry about the character and think, even when I was married to my husband and I had a child, I don't think people wanted to think about Elvira being at home,
Mhm.
cooking dinner and changing diapers. It's not really Elvira, Elvira's thing. So I tried to never mention that I was married
Mhm.
when I was. So it's the same thing with my relationship now. Part of it is maybe that it's a woman, but the bigger part is that people don't want to know that a real sexy icon is married or in a relationship. They really don't. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, I was like maybe 13, and I found out that John Lennon was married to Cynthia Lennon. I was like, I am over him. He is good. This is it. And I'm like, what? I think I'm going to actually hook up with John Lennon. I don't know. Somewhere in
Well,
my
you
mind.
had an excuse. You were like 13.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, these guys that are online, not wanting to like Elvira anymore, they don't have an excuse. They're old
No,
guys. It's like,
that's a little different. I'm like, okay, I get take I in a sense, I guess maybe it takes away the fantasy of you have a chance, but like, come
yeah,
on, come on.
yeah,
Like,
no, really, come on.
well, if only she didn't have a girlfriend. Could have been you, dude. Could have been
Would
you.
have been him. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Elvira kind of I think Elvira honestly makes people think that they do have a chance because she's so, you know, hot
Well,
to
that's part of her
trot.
charm.
Yeah, right.
That's part of it.
She plays kind of fast and loose.
Yeah. Just the way we like them.
So I just think me as myself, I think a lot of fans of Elvira would be kind of disappointed just knowing there's a semi-normal person behind the character,
Hmm.
and she's not always that. She doesn't wake up with tons of makeup and long black hair, and giant cleavage, you know? It's a little disappointing for them just to know that, hey, I'm a regular person, just like you. But I'm glad to get a chance to tell people that this wasn't something that just came out of the blue and I got lucky and I got the part of Elvira and then whoop-de-doo, it just changed my life. It was a lifelong thing, and it was a lot of work, and I worked real hard to get where I am. So I'd like people to know that, because I'd like them to follow by my example. You have to, it's not that you have to work your fingers to the bone. It's nothing like that. It's just you have to have the right attitude, and you have to have the you know, the want, the need to be where you want to go and follow your dream. Okay, I'm rambling now. Sorry.
No, because I was just thinking, like, there were so many times where you could have thrown in the towel and you chose not to. Like, you consciously had to make the decision not to, and it would have been a hell of a lot easier if you would have just said, like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to back out of this now.
I had this really weird poem, and when I was a kid, I think it was The Road Less Traveled, or so. It was a poem, I think, by Robert Frost. Boy, I'm so bad at this. But it was a poem that about taking two paths. I took the path that was more difficult. And I made kind of a little pact with myself that when I was approached with a decision, I would take the harder decision. I just decided that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go the easy way. I'm going to do the harder one. And kind of worked out for me.
A little bit, I would say.
Yeah, and I think in the book it kind of you see that at several junctures. I did have a choice about hang it up, you know, be done with it, or keep going. And so again, I hope it's an example for people. I mean, my biggest dream about this book is that people will read it and get some inspiration about their own life. You know, as wacky as the book is, but they'll pull from it some kind of inspiration, and that will help them accomplish their dream.
I think you've achieved that. I definitely felt like that as I was reading it, and I think a lot of other people will as well. So that's amazing.
So.
Oh, also, I was very excited about your reaction to seeing tassels for the first time in that club in Colorado, because the first time I saw that was in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So I'm glad that it ended up getting put in there, because I was like, what is happening? And then I was like, are they stunt boobs? Is it a mechanism? But that's just a skill that you like picked up along the way on your journey.
When I was 14, I'm telling you, other kids were at home practicing the piano. I was in front of the mirror practicing throwing tassels.
As one does.
You can read all about it in the book.
Oh,
pretty bizarre, right?
I love that.
Thanks.
Okay, and one last thing before you wrap up. But when I heard the news that you would like come out in your memoirs, I was crying, and I was like, why am I crying? This is so weird. And then I was like, of course I'm crying. Like, it makes all this sense, because you're like, you just embody all of these things that are just wonderful things. You're smart, you're funny, you're enterprising, you're successful, you're sexy with like unapologetically on your own terms. And I know that you say all of these things about Elvira, but it's you, you know, it's you also embody these things. So it's really hard to describe representation, but there's all kinds of different ways to be. So then to see you come out like that, I was like, this is such, it feels like such a win. So I'm just really grateful for that. And really, it's none of anybody's damn business. So I'm really glad that you decided to share that and share that part of your life. And it's very personal, and what that journey was like.
I really needed to. I just want my partner and I to be able to live, not hiding anything and having secrets. And, you know, we didn't lie to people, but we lied by omission, you know, and it really doesn't feel good. I mean, I was just reading this thing about with Danny Trejo, who said, you're only as sick as your secrets. And really, if you bottle that stuff up inside, it's not good for your health. At the very least, you'll get gas, right? At the worst, you know, who knows what could happen? I mean, you know, you wonder why as people get older, they get ill and they get bad things happen. Well, keeping secrets and sitting on them for your whole life might be one of the reasons, you know?
Yeah. It eats away at you a little bit, you know? And also, I'm just very excited. Like, I was honestly just so happy to think, like, you're someone who brings so much joy to people. And I just, like, was crying thinking, I'm just so happy that she has a person and a space that makes her, like, feel seen and loved and, you know. And then I read, that was even before I read the quotes about tea. And I'm like, it's exactly as I'd hoped. So thank you very much for that.
You know, it is great. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels great for her too. I mean, I'm speaking for her, but it's so nice not to have to introduce her as my assistant. It's
Right.
so embarrassing,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on this, just everything. And I'm so
Thank
glad I got to do this. Like I said, bucket list. So, thank you very much.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad you did. You did a great job, and I hope I talk to you again.